So I'm gonna finish this up because some of this I'm gonna have Ken because I want to show you the other side of this, and some of you already know this word and you've already seen it. But I would do a not service if I don't point it out. And yeah, I'll land my plane on this and connecting it to Dan Winter's work too. If you guys know who Dan Winters is, I've posted some things about him already. It's this right here. It's the last two letters. The last two letters is a contracted form of the word death. And it's interesting because it's connected to truth. And if you were to just simplify it in what we're looking at with the Aleph, everything that we have just been going over about the Aleph and the magnitude of what the vibratory frequency is of this, it would literally be one death. We had did something a long time ago on our YouTube channel about the law of one cycle. The law, wasn't it called the law of one cycle?
Law of one cycle.
The law of one cycle. We could have all completed our journey in one lifetime if we had all the tools that we needed. And, maybe we got addicted to what the experience was like in this lower density. And so we decided to play the karma game so that we could keep reincarnating. The problem is that every time you do that, if you haven't switched to negentropy, your light grows dimmer and dimmer and dimmer and dimmer and dimmer until you get to the place where you will just extinguish yourself and end up going back to source. Why it's so important for us to reverse our spin. And honestly, why I joke, but I'm not really joking when I said that Ken came in as a rescue mission for me, because I was down in my last death spiral. This was it. And I know that I was either going to be going back to source and ceasing my journey, or I was going to reverse my spin. There was no other option for me. That was it. I didn't have much spark left in me to reverse it. So I'm very grateful that he came on the rescue mission to help me. I'm very grateful. The reason why I say, with what it's saying in one death, Dan Winters has talked about this. And when I first was introduced to him, we had already been spending a lot of time in the language. So it was really interesting to see this science guy, very, very brainy, sometimes hard to follow because he's not really good about speaking in terms that I can, because I'm not science minded. And
he's very collegiate.
Very. But I can get what he's saying. But he talks about having a successful death. And it's interesting. It's like, well, what is a successful death? Well, a successful death is getting the chaos on the outside or from the inside out so that you're in a negentropic spin. What does that mean for all of us? A successful death is when you've unified yourself so that you can take your memories with you. That's what a successful death is. So when you're changing into a lesser dense being, you don't get masked and veiled again. You actually get to take your memories with you. That's a successful death. That is why negentropy and salvation is so important, because quote unquote, the ascended masters, let's connect to Buddha or Ishu. Why do you think they work so well behind the veil? Because they took their memories with them because they became masters. They can work behind the veil because they have access to all of that, because they took their memories, they had their memories unlocked, they had access to the Aleph. If you want to connect this to maybe something that you guys know, the Akashic Records, guess what? The Akashic Records it's from a word that's actually called Bakash. The bet is removed and the Aleph is added. So you want access to the Akashic Records, then become an Aleph. Have a successful death. So that when you're done with this avatar body, you take your memories with you and you have access to the Hall of Records. The next time you go around, guess what? You get to come back in with your memories. How amazing is that? That's what a successful death is. So you really only have to die once if you deal with your chaos on the inside. This is the truth. Deal with your chaos on the inside. Start at the beginning, finish well, die well, take your memories with you, be the Aleph and the Tav through your journey. Just get rid of the chaos. Become mothers in the earth. Become mothers.
A sovereign nation.
As a sovereign nation.
Know your commerce, know your exchange, know your values.
Know what the waters are.
Yeah, no one
Get
would.
beyond the bar. Get out of the docket.
I wouldn't wish it upon anyone to flail in the death throe, because that chaotic waters is like being set alone in a choppy sea.
Last point that I want to say, and I'm going to be done, and then you can turn it over into what you want to say
Okay.
on this. My mother, I remember her sharing with me, she spent a lot of time with her mom when her mom died and was in hospice. And she spent a lot of time talking to the nurses that worked in the hospice house that my grandmother was in when she was passing. It was quite a few years ago, but I remember my mom was having a conversation with me about it, and she said that the hospice nurses always can tell where a person is at when they die, whether they die in peace or they die in a lot of chaos. And this is why I said the truth of it is your heart will tell. The ones that hadn't gone through a lot of their journey would fight and would have tremendous fear when they would die. And they would wrestle and they would struggle. And that was always the hardest on the hospice nurses, because at that point, there was nothing they could do. The person was wrestling their death. It was not a quiet death at all. It was very emotional for the hospice nurses. But those who had come to that place of peace within them, they had wrestled well, and they were at that place at the end of the journey, and they were good. They died in so much peace. And I remember my mom was expressing to me when my grandmother died, and if you know kind of how hospice works, they kind of drug them up at the end so that it is a peaceful passing. But my mother said that when she was sitting there with my grandmother, that right before my grandmother died, she had been not coherent for like a week. I mean, it'd been a while. She was just kind of in and out because they had her on so many drugs to try to help her with cancer. But she said right before that she died, the hospice nurse came in and she kind of had that death rattle, that really raspy, uneven breathing. And the nurse came in and told my mom and her sister as well, your mom's not going to be here much longer. So they just gathered around with her. And my mom said that my grandmother opened her eyes and she had the biggest smile on her face. And in her face, it was like she was glowing. It was like whatever was happening, there was so much beauty and peace that she didn't wrestle. And my mother felt like she was in the presence of God when that happened. And that's what I want for all of us. I want us to be able to have the one death where we're not, when we're translating out of this body, that there is no sting, because there is no wrestle. We know who we are. We know that we're shedding the skin for something greater, a less dense body, that we're ascending out of it and a greater portion of being able to affect the collective, maybe from behind the scenes, or maybe we are able to come back again and choose to come back in and take our memories with us so that we can affect the collective from a much greater level, because we would be operating out of wisdom the next time around, not from the place of blind. Trying to navigate the waters out here blind with no compass. We actually come in with our orientation already done. And for me, that's exciting to be able to know that we have that as an ability by the work that we're doing right here. The work that we're doing right here, right now. What does that mean for our future? What does that mean for future generations? What does that mean when we actually cross over and we shed this lower dense skin and embrace a different skin? And anybody that has studied the monks and the rainbow body, I shared something on that a long time ago on the YouTube channel about what the ascension process looks like and being able to have a death transition where the body just doesn't decay. Why does the body not decay for them? Because they died in a negentropic state of being, and that energy is still there in the flesh suit. They don't decay because they switch their spin. How amazing is that? This is trying to change our minds so that we have a completely different paradigm, so that we don't operate in fear of death. Energy just transmutes itself. That's it. We're eternal beings. So this is why when you hear Ken say Mishle Mot, I don't know if you guys have heard him say that. Sometimes when he closes out, you're kind of like, what the heck is Ken saying Mishle Mot when we close out a meeting? It means die in peace, die well, die completed. May you reverse your spin in completion, because you drew yourself out. And what are we drawing ourselves out of? Chaos. What does that mean? We draw ourselves out of fear. We perfect love. then we walk in peace, and we die in peace. And we don't rest. There is no resting. You change. You transmute your energy. You continue your journey. So die well. Die one death. Die the true death that is no longer in chaos, but frees us from the shackles and the chains of the lower density flesh, because you completed your journey. You will have a successful death, and you'll take your memories with you. Oh, how beautiful is that? That means you don't have to start all over, people. We don't have to be blind the next time we decide to either come back here, or if we go on to another journey, another place. I don't know what that looks like. I've been here for a very long time. I remember a lot of my incarnations from here. So I'm excited for the next leg of the journey, because I am going to die well this time, with no sting, taking my memories with me, which means all of you. I'm taking all of you and our memories with me. Ken.
Well, in that, we don't have to die in the physical form. We can actually die and still be walking the earth if we do it correctly. So,
of course,
that's the language of what this word is actually saying. Is
but
that,
I'm saying,
yeah,
if you
don't. If you don't, yes, I'm just trying to connect a little from another perspective. Is that if we die well to ourselves, we get our whole life to journey through this world without chaotic waters. That's lovely. I mean, there's nothing more powerful to me than being a vessel. This whole language is a vessel of crossing language. It's all preparation of ingathering precious cargo, merchandise, commerce, because as a nation, you're exchanging your own goods. You are learning your own commerce language, and your commerce is unique to you. It's like, so look at that language as sovereignty is based on your own surrounding, as your own atmosphere. And it's and again, every nation has their own constitution, and if you want to see your constitution, just go look in the mirror, because it's your current state of affairs. We're all constituted. The question is, at what degree do you see yourself, and what process of due diligence have you performed the duty? There is a high calling that moves us into the completion of a peaceful death, but a lot of us are still in our throes, or regardless of where it just is, and that's okay. That's fine. The power in what Carrie is sharing and what I'm sharing is the revelation of seeing it actually starts to calm the waters. Oh, this is okay.
Yeah.
I'm human in an experience regardless, and I can see it now. I'm not under this anymore. I'm actually starting to stand on the water, and it still may be a little turbulent, and that's okay. You might slap up on your knees once in a while. I might try to buckle you a bit. That's fine. But the power is in the revelation of knowing that this is trying to raise me. Everything of Mother is nurturing us into the standard of what it is to become Father, fully constituted.